it is a new year, which means new goals, new things happening. I'm excited to get started. And one of the new things happening is that we have our very first guest on Where Grace Leads. Now, this is not just anyone. This is my very best friend, the Jonathan to my David, all the things. She is my other half. I love her so much. And we've been in ministry together for probably like 2 years now.
Yeah.
Like 2 years.
Feels like a lot longer.
It does. It really does. But we've seen each other grow and just recently, we've been doing hyphen together. We did youth together for a really long time. We always crack jokes because she's in the praise team and I'm in the media team and we're like on the other side of each other. Yeah. Just like
I know. Sunday mornings, I'm always like, man, I wish she was on here on praise team.
I don't know. I couldn't do that.
I wish she was right here by next to me.
Do I just wave from across the room?
I'm like, hi, we're all tired.
But so tell us a little bit about yourself. I know we talked a little bit about the ministries, but you can expound on it. Just tell us a little bit about Mia.
Hello, I'm Mia. I'm Aliyah's best friend, and Aliyah's my best friend. I'm 21 years old. I started coming to Life Challenge. Am I allowed to say our church?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know why. No, I started coming to Life Challenge in 2018. Mm-hmm. Well, the end of 2017, beginning of 2018. And as soon as I started church, I was thrown into music ministry because I've always loved to sing ever since I was a little baby. I've always loved music. I started singing way before I could even talk. Actually, there's a memory my mom says that, because I grew up in the apostolic before I came to Life Challenge, and I sang a Spanish song. I was 3 years old, and I sang a Spanish song in front of a whole congregation of people. I did not say a single word correctly, but I got my butt up there, and I started singing.
She got that bravery.
Yes, my mom's always installed that in me. And the funny thing is, as soon as I started going to church, I started singing immediately. I've always dreamt of being on praise team. So music's always been a big part of my life. So it was either through dance or I played the violin in middle school. But yeah, it's always been a part of me. And then as soon as I got into Life Challenge, I started singing immediately. And so I've been in music ministry for as long as I've been in church. Right now, I'm currently the youth praise team leader, which is a lot. It's not a lot. It's a lot in a good way.
Yeah,
it's really fun. It's a lot of tasking to do.
A lot of teaching.
Yeah, it is, especially with kids who are at that age that they don't know what they want to do. I know when I was their age, I knew what I want to do. I was
same.
This is what I'm gonna become. This is who I want to be.
Yeah.
But these kids are they're still trying to figure it out. So it's a little hard, but I'm blessed to be in this position that I'm in. Yeah. So, and I'm also working in hyphen with Aliyah. Yeah. So it's really good. Yeah.
Yeah. So you literally, we were, right when we graduated, we jumped into youth ministry together and we served in that, literally hit connected. And I mean, we did our best to do that. And then, our leader has been so good to us and given us opportunities to lead hyphen. And I mean, that's grown and that's, thrived.
Awesome.
Yeah. And it's not just because of me or you, but it's because of that unity and because of our heart for it.
Yeah.
And literally when I was struggling in hyphen or anything, or I'm very OCD. So when I'm stressed out, Mia's always the one to be there and be that support system, that community, that I know I needed at times. But so today we did have you because at our hyphen, we had a testimony night, and even our next guest is because of what she shared at that testimony night. But I know that testimonies have such a great way of it's hard because it's a vulnerable spot, and I know that that's never easy. And being vulnerable in a place where you're showing not only where God came through, but where you
side.
And being real about it, and those kind of testimonies can really help someone and change someone else's life. And that's why I had you come here, because I know that it's been hard for you to share this, but you felt that opening more and more, knowing how it's going to help people, so I just kind of want you to go and jump into it and share what God did in your life, because it is awesome. So, I mean, go ahead. Have the floor.
Okay. This is like, whenever I initially, with that testimony night, I was like, they were asking, like, who wants to share their testimony? Nobody raised their hand. So just out of, like, getting people to share their testimony, I raised my hand. And I was like, oh, as soon as I raised my hand. I know, as soon as I raised my hand, Scotty made eye contact with me. And I was like, oh, no. But no, after, because I've never shared this testimony before. The only people that, like, really know this testimony is, like, my family and, like, you. Like, y'all are the only ones that really know this testimony of mine. And, I've always wanted to, like, share this to people, to help people, but I never knew how, like, scary it kind of is, because it's super, you're vulnerable. Like, you're, like, showing everybody, like, your scars and who you used to be, which is a good thing, because that's who I used to be. It's not who I am now, you know? But still, I, like, at that time, I was so nervous to share, like, the testimony. I was super afraid of what people might think of me. Even though that's crazy, because I'm not that same person, you know? But it's super vulnerable. So, yeah. So my testimony, well, where it began, I was around 14, 15 years old, and something really, like, big happened in my life. Something that, like, I will carry with me, like, for the rest of my life. Something just super, I guess, important and impactful that I think needed to happen in order to be standing where I am here today, you know?
Positive or negative?
I think it has both. I think it has both sides to it.
Yeah.
Negative in a way where I still have to unlearn my thoughts of when I was going through this, but positive in a way where I'm able to empathize with other people. I'm able to feel like, understand the pain of what, like, everything that I've gone through, what it feels like, you know?
Yeah.
Having that heart for other people who went through the same, who are going through what I went through. I think that's always, like, super important as well, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I had something really important, something impactful happen to me. And as a result of that, I had suffered a lot of insecurity, a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear came from that. One of the biggest things that, like, I had really struggled with was insecurity. I think that was one of the main things that, like, really brought, like, depression and anxiety, was because I was super concerned of how I looked on the outside, and I was super insecure of, like, what I looked like. I had gone through that. What it resulted in was a lot of insecurity, a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear. And one of the biggest things that, like, left me was a lot of insecurity. Like, the depression and anxiety, yeah, like, I really had that, and it was something that I did go through, but the insecurity is what I have to unlearn a lot of the thoughts even now, you know?
Yeah.
So when I had gone through that, it was really hard for me to ever feel beautiful. Because before that, ever since I was, like, really young, I've always been super sure of myself. I've always been confident. I've always had it, like, my head on my shoulders. My friends would even tell me, like, that doesn't hurt your feelings. I'm like, no, why does it? It's not true about me.
Yeah.
Why should it affect me, you know? And a lot of people would tell me, like, you look like you don't, like, fall for stupid things that other people would. I'm like, yeah, because I'm not dumb. Like,
She said, I'm not dumb. I'm not going to fall for that.
I'm not going to fall. Yeah, no. And then my mom and my dad have always installed those values in me. I've always, like, told me, like, you are beautiful. Not only are you beautiful because of what you look like, but you're beautiful because of who you are on the inside.
Yeah.
You know, and they've always told me, like, God makes you beautiful as well. Like, just as beautiful as you are as a person, you are beautiful in God as well, you know? And they've always installed that in me, even when I was younger and going through, like, bullying in a way, because not always, but I've always encountered, like, mean girls in my life, and my mom was always the girl that was like, they're just jealous of you, or they don't have anything good at their home, so that's why they're picking on you. Yeah. So that's always been, like, a confidence, but I wasn't arrogant about it. My mom would be like, they treat you that way, learn something from that. You don't want to be like them. You don't want to be ugly and hurt other people's feelings. So I've always grown up that way, and from this experience, it really broke my spirit. It really broke my confidence. It broke who I was, who I thought I was, or how I looked at myself. Yeah. I really saw myself after the whole situation. I really struggled with looking at myself in the mirror and finding beauty. Like, I thought I was so gross. I thought I was disgusting. I thought I could never be loved by anybody or be loved by God. It was, I was always going through like a mental battle of like, you're not pretty. Like when people called me pretty, I felt gross. I hated when people would call me pretty, when they'd be like, oh, you're so beautiful. I hated it. It was because I was like, I'm not beautiful. If only you knew, like, I'm not beautiful on the inside, you know? Anytime I would like curl my hair to make myself feel pretty, I was like, no. And I would brush out my hair. I would do anything to not look beautiful. I felt like my beauty was like vain. I felt like everybody who saw me as beautiful was vain. So I was like, you know, like, no, I'd rather not be called I'd rather be called smart. I'd rather be called talented. Those were the things that I'd rather look for than beautiful, which is not a bad thing. But as a girl, you want to feel beautiful. You like, as a girl, you want to hear like, oh, you're so pretty, you know?
Well, and then there's even like a thing of like, it's a good balance of like, yeah, you don't exist to be beautiful, but you're beautiful because you exist and because God made you that way. And I think like the way you're like saying it is the fuel to be the other things was because of like this maybe like shame, like this guilt, or even do you feel like what happened? Do you feel like you blamed yourself for something that was out of your control? And so that's why you couldn't see yourself truly?
Yeah. I feel like I blamed my beauty on what I had experienced. I definitely was like, because I'm beautiful or because I'm pretty or people perceive me as pretty or see me as beautiful, I definitely went through what I went through. So it just was like I just hated the word pretty or beautiful, like towards myself. Because I never thought that could happen.
Yeah.
And so and with that, I also really I was always covered. Like I hated any part of my skin being exposed. So if I was wearing like a short t-shirt, like it wasn't nothing crazy. It wasn't even anything like I was immodest or anything, but I hated seeing my arms.
Well, you know, and like the way you're like, even just the way you're saying like I had to be covered, it reminds me of like the word that I said a second ago was like that shame. Because like even when Adam and Eve sinned or like that thing happened, not saying that you sinned, maybe, I don't know. Anyways, but like saying that there was this shame and the lies that the enemy was telling you that you deserve this, you're not beautiful and all that. And so your immediate reaction in the physical was like, I need to cover, I need to hide, I can't see myself. And it was just this like, this hiding from yourself and from God and, I mean, continue in that. You know?
I definitely hid from God. Like, this is crazy because I'm barely remembering this. I remember, and the thing was, like, nobody knew what I was going through. Like, I'm really good at, my mom always says that she's always scared. One of these days, I'm going to get married and she's not going to know. She's like, you're going to have a boyfriend and I'm never going to know. Like, she's always scared because I've always hidden, like, how I really felt. Or if I was going through something, I've always hidden it. I've never... I don't know, I guess it's just the oldest daughter in me that's always just been like, you know what? And I've always been taught to be independent. Yeah. You know?
I'm gonna tough through this.
Yeah, so like I can handle this. Like I can definitely like, go through this by myself. Go like after every service, like we would go to church, every time there was an altar call, I could not go to the altar. And it was because I was so scared that I was gonna go up there, someone was going to pray for me, and they were going to find out everything that I had been going through, you know? Like, God was just going to give them a vision, and I was going to be exposed. Like, not in, like a sinful exposure, but just, like, everything that I was going through, you know? So I was so scared that, like, one of these days I was going to go up to the altar, and someone was going to, like, see, like my brokenness, you know? And I'd rather not be perceived as broken. I've always, like, wanted to be perceived as strong and as, like, courageous, as brave, you know? Yeah. And so I was definitely hiding, like, from God. I was like, oh, I'm not going to the altar. Even though God knows everything, you know? Like, he knows exactly how we're feeling. He knows exactly what we're going through. It's funny that we try to hide ourselves from God, like our emotions from him, you know? Yeah. And so, I was definitely, like, hiding myself, even in the way I was dressing. I was also going through, like depression. Like, I was really sad all the time. I was always crying. I would go in the shower and I would just sit there and I would just cry, like nonstop. I would go to bed and I would cry myself, try to cry myself to sleep from exhaustion, because I could not sleep. Like, for months on end, I could not sleep. I was in fear. I would be asleep and I would wake up in fear, like in a panic. I was always anxious. And I was depressed. Even my mom one time, she woke up and she even told me, like, your room is so dark. Like, and I was like, what do you mean? Like, there's lights on. She goes, no, like, it spiritually, like, there's a darkness in your room. And I thought to myself, like, you know, like, maybe it's my mom being my mom, not knowing that I was going through depression, which is one of the darkest things, like, you can go through. I was so anxious all the time. My parents would get on to me and over, like, things that I needed to get onto, and I would just, like, had the urge to break out in tears. My parents would tell me, like, one thing, hey, like, do this, and I would just, like, want to have a nervous breakdown, you know? And I was always on the verge of tears. Everything made me want to cry. I would see, I don't know, I would just see people, like, walking, and it'd make me want to cry. I was just always on the brink of, like, breaking down.
Like a roller coaster.
Yeah, I was on a roller coaster of emotions. I never felt happy. Like, I really didn't. I always was like, I just want to be happy again. I want to feel like my old self. I just want to be so full of life, so joyful, and super just positive. Like, every thought I had was super negative about myself, about other people. It, like, definitely what I experienced really skewed my perception of people in church. It really did. Which we're all human, you know?
Yeah.
But it definitely, I would look at people differently, and I would be so angry. I think it definitely made me angry at God.
Yeah.
It made me angry at, like, so many people in our church, because I was like, I would always pray, like, God, can't you just like show somebody what I'm going through, like, and just come and be like, everything's all right, like, it's not your fault, or it's gonna be okay, you know? And I guess that, like, angered me. It angered me in so many ways, because, like, why can't they just see that I'm going through this, you know? But it's not how it works, you know?
Yeah.
And so, and I was definitely going through a lot of, like, suicidal thoughts. I think I laugh when I'm nervous. So, but it wasn't, like, trying to attempt anything. Like, I never did that. But the thoughts of just, like, if I weren't alive, it'd be so much easier.
Like, wanting to disappear.
Yeah, wanting to disappear.
Wanting to just fade.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important that, like, there's so many interesting things that you said just now. Like, the number one, the whole, I want to appear strong, but I'm broken. I want to be healed, but I'm hiding from God. And it's this, like, I think it's that older sister mentality that's kind of going around, but it's this thing of, like, I have to be perfect and before I'm made perfect, you know?
I'm definitely
or, like,
a perfectionist.
You ever heard, like, how people clean their house before they, like, pay a cleaner to come and clean their house?
That.
It's like that, you know? And that's such a, like, a human mindset. And I think, like, the second thing I was thinking is, like, how loud the enemy was speaking to you. Because even, like, when something happens that's kind of traumatic and involves people in the church, that is one of the most dangerous things, because bitterness comes in so easily. And, like, I talked about bitterness before, and I've experienced bitterness, and you know that. And that bitterness is so sneaky, especially when it's, like, valid.
Yeah.
You know, especially when you're like, this is real. There's no way that I can, like, give them an out, but God still looks at us and says, forgive.
Yeah.
God still looks at us and says, like, give them the other cheek. And when you're hearing, like, the enemy validates, like,
everything,
your anger, you know, and even in that same breath, though, he's making you feel pain.
At one point, he's making you feel like a friend in a way, in a twisted way. And at the same time, he's making you feel like the dirtiest dirt you could ever find in the entire world.
Exactly. And that's so, like, dangerous, because it's like, he's gonna come, like, sly and sneaky and, you know, in some ways say, oh yeah, like, do what you want, feel what you're feeling. And in other ways, he's gonna say, and hold on to that, because it's gonna be the thorn in your side forever. And that's what's gonna keep you from God. While God comes and says, if you would just humble yourself, if you would forgive them, even if they don't deserve it, that's where I work, and that's where I'll come to you, and I will give you peace, and I will give you love, and I will give you healing. When you like bow on your knees, humble, then that's so hard.
Yeah.
Like nobody's saying that's easy. You know?
Yeah, no.
But it's like it's so real, you know. But so you were saying that you struggle with depression. Did this affect your like relationship with church and your relationship with God in that hard time? Like, what was your relationship with God in the church?
It was non-existent, honestly. I was so ashamed of myself. I was so shameful. I couldn't even like bear to think like, oh, my dirty self coming up to like the most holy God and him like forgiving me. Because not even I could forgive myself or even see a way to like feel sorry for myself, because I really blamed myself. I did not feel 1 ounce of like empathy for myself. I was like, no, like, this is your fault, you know. I constantly blamed myself. So I thought, if I go to God with this, he's gonna blame me, and he's gonna not shame me, but he's gonna be like, this is wrong, you know. Like, and I don't know, and I'm a perfectionist, so I hate being wrong. And so I thought that's how God worked, you know, because I can't forgive other people, so how can God forgive me? You know, and that of humanizing God, which is crazy, because he's not human, he's holy, he's like out of this world, he's nothing like compared to us, you know. And I humanized him in that way of thinking, oh, he's gonna shame me, he's gonna hate me, he's not gonna love me. And I think I really struggled with having God love me, like thinking that God could ever love me again, or thinking other people could love me, you know. So yeah, I was definitely going through that, and it was pretty drastic. And
like avoiding church and avoiding God. And
I was, every time Sunday or Wednesday would come, I was always like, oh, I always had a headache. Which now I do have headaches, and when I say I have a headache, believe me, I do have a headache.
I've seen you.
No, but back then I was like, I don't feel good, and so I just want to stay. I hated going to church, honestly. I would, and even at the time I was in ministry, and I was up there singing, and it's crazy because I would be up there singing about God's love for you or for people, but I did not believe that for myself.
Not fully.
Yeah, it wasn't. It wasn't like I understood that for myself.
I think that's such a real feeling of like it's kind of similar to that phrase like backsliding on the pew, where you're like, you're in ministry and you're serving, but there's something breaking in you. And I think the hard thing about that is like, this is something I did when I struggled, like, and I was backsliding. I stepped down from media, and I stepped down from everything. I stepped down from anything I was in. And I remember one of the ministries I was in, they came up to me and they were like, I know you're struggling. Stay in this ministry. Let this ministry be like what's holding on. And I remember thinking in my heart, like, I don't want to be here if I'm not here for God. I don't want to be here because I'm serving. I want to be here because I'm giving everything to God, and this is an extent of that. But if I'm here for a ministry, like, I'm going to be depressed. I'm going to be frustrated. I'm going to be imposter syndrome. Like, I'm going to feel all the things, and I'm not going to feel like right, you know? And so, like, I mean, it's good that you're there. And it's like something that holds on to you, but ultimately that will only hold on for so long until it's either God or not, you know? And it's like, you can't be, what is that, that verse where it's like, you can't serve two masters. And I've even heard this story where it's like, the devil is like, come to my side, and God's like, come to my side. And he's like, oh, you know what? Like, I'll sit on the fence. And I'll be on the fence. And then it comes time to like go to heaven and go to hell. And the devil says, like, I own the fence. And he's like, no, I'm on the fence. I'm on the fence. Like, no, I own it. Like, you're in my territory, you know? And it's like, that's so true though. And it's like, at some point you had to have that come to Jesus moment. And so what did that look like for you?
So I had been going through that for a couple of months. And then I think it had been a year since like everything had happened. And I don't know, but like in that year, well, hold on, let me rethink my thought. Okay, so what I had been going through, that for a couple of months. And then I had been going through that for a year. And then finally on like the year, like the anniversary of what I've been going through, which is funny calling it an anniversary.
Okay. Okay, go ahead.
What, like a couple of weeks before I had finally told my parents, I was like, it was like the worst I was going through. Yeah. In my head, now that I think about it, I'm thinking the enemy knew I was getting closer of like being set free in a way. And so he was like trying to like nail it into me even more, you know, so I would keep that to myself, you know, but I was going through it like, I thought I was going through it like a year ago. I was going through it definitely in this 1 month. I was struggling like even more. Oh, I was always crying for that whole month. I did not sleep at all. Like, I would lay down to sleep and just fear kept me up at night. Just anxiety kept me up at night. Just depression, shame just kept me up at night. I could not sleep. I was taking sleeping medicine to fall asleep because I could not fall asleep. And after I had been going through that, and then the week of leading up to me telling like my parents what I was dealing with, the night before I had dreamt a dream. I dreamt my mom and my dad, and I had told them like everything that I was going through. And in that dream, they looked at me and they laughed at me. They didn't believe me. They thought I was just kidding. They were like mocking me, you know? Yeah. And I woke up from that dream crying. I was like, gosh, oh, I can't. It's going to happen. Like, it's definitely, my parents are not going to believe me, or they're not going to understand. They're going to think I'm crazy. Yeah. And so for that entire day, I definitely was thinking about that dream all night. And I was just crying. I was like always taking a shower because that was the only time I had like time to like cry by myself without my parents being like, why are you crying? You know, like what's wrong? Because they've always been really good at being like, are you okay? Like, is everything okay? Yeah. So they've always been really like good at checking up on me, you know? And they had been checking up on me like, are you okay? Like, or is everything all right? I'm like, yeah. Because at the time I was dating someone. So they were just like, are you good? Like, is everything okay? And I was like, yeah. Like, it was the first time I ever had like a boyfriend. And so they were like, everything good with y'all and stuff like that. I'm like, yeah. Like, and I was putting on a strong face for them, you know? And then we went to go get pizza. And my mom was like, she felt something was wrong. And she was like, Mia, what's wrong? Like, I feel like something is wrong. What is wrong? And I was like, no, like, I'm fine. Like, I'm good. Like, everything's fine. There's nothing for you to worry about. Like, why are you asking me, you know? And even though I was desperately wanting that, I was desperately calling for someone to be like, hey, like, something's wrong. And you're not saying anything, you know? But I was always like, no, like, I'm fine. Like, I'm good, you know? And then my mom's like, no, we're not leaving until you tell me what's wrong. And so I know she'll do that. She'll do that. She's like, you know what? You're not leaving my room until you tell me what is wrong, because I know there's something wrong. Yeah. And so I finally just broke out into tears, and I finally told my parents like what I had been struggling with. And that night they like everything I had dreamt in that dream the night before could not be further from the truth. Like they acted how parents should act. They hugged me. They were like, everything's gonna be okay. Like, it's not your fault. Like, you're gonna be okay. Like, you're fine. And I remember that night I had like, that was the first time I like had fallen asleep in a while. Like, it was the best sleep I had ever gotten. And I slept on the couch, which was like, at the time we had these leather couches and they're not comfortable to sleep on, but that was the best sleep I had ever gotten, you know? Yeah. And obviously me telling my parents just that one time doesn't solve all these issues, you know? It was like opening up, because I'm like, okay, I opened up to my parents. They don't think this way about me. If I open up to God, surely he can't think of this way about me, you know? Yeah. So after that, I was slowly crawling back to the altar, slowly getting closer to the altar, slowly like crying in the altar, because I felt like if I cried, people would definitely say, oh, she's crying. She's definitely like something's going on, and I need to get to the bottom of what's going on, you know, which is not true, because everybody cries at the altar. Because I see people crying and I don't think like, oh, they're going through something. I just think, oh, like God's just really touching them right now, you know?
God's moving on them.
God's moving on them. Get them. Yeah. And in my head, I'm thinking like, oh my gosh, these people are gonna see me cry and be like, that's weird. Yeah. That's suspicious. Like, there's something going on. Oh yeah. You know? And then so, yeah, I was slowly making my way back to, like, God, you know, opening, like, tearing down that wall that I had built. I built such high walls out of protection for myself. I thought it was protection for myself, which in reality was distancing myself, which was really hurting me from, you know? And so I remember at the ladies' tea, we had ladies' tea the next month, and I thought I was fine. You know, I was like, you know what? Like, my parents know, like, I'm fine. Like, they're praying for me now, and so they know, you know, and I thought everything was good. But at the ladies' tea, anyways, she had preached about the exact same situation like I was going through, and she had preached about everything that I was feeling, like,
wow,
and all like and it's amazing how much God loves us.
Yeah,
not knowing that, me thinking that God hated me and He was gonna shame me for everything, you know, and at that ladies' tea, it's like He was speaking to me, you know. It's crazy how God will do anything. He'll go through. He'll leave the 99 just to find the one to bring him back, you know?
Yeah.
And at that service, I definitely felt like the one, you know, that He was trying to bring back home, you know? And they always talk about how whenever a shepherd is bringing back that one, they'll break its legs. So that way it stays with them, so they know not to leave again, you know?
Yeah.
Which I think I definitely had to be broken to, like, find my way back to God, you know? Which is awesome, you know, in that way, because He loves us so much that all He wants to do is just be with us, you know?
Yeah.
That's all He longs for. That's why He died on the cross for us, you know?
Yeah.
Is to have us, like, be His, you know? And she had, like, preached everything I was, like, going through, like, mentally, the battles that I was facing. And I remember just sitting there in my pew, and I just remember, like holding back my tears again, because I was like, you know what, I'm not going to cry, because people are going to think, you know, again, me thinking about what other people were going to think, you know. And I remember going up to that altar and just telling God, I'm broken, you know. I'm broken, I'm hurt, I'm angry. I don't feel loved. I don't feel like I could ever feel love, you know. I don't think I deserve your love, first of all, you know. But here I am. Like, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of feeling depressed. I'm tired of feeling anxious. I'm tired of thinking these thoughts about myself that you don't think of me, you know.
Yeah.
And I remember I remember praying, and it was like God was, like, speaking to me in my spirit, like, you're mine, you know. I'm yours, you're mine, and I hate saying this, but it's true, like, you're my princess, and all I want to do is just protect you, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember that, like, those words being so, like, strong, like, I'm a princess, that's all I could think about.
I love that.
Yeah. And it was God confirming, like, that, like, you are worthy, you know, you are worth it, because I died on the cross for you, and that's why I died on the cross for you, because I think you're worthy. I think you're worth it, you know? And I remember later on that night, after that prayer, I was like, you know what? I'm good. You know, like, I feel strong. Like, I'm God's. Like, I'm a child of God. I'm a child of the Most High King. Like, I am His, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember going to sleep that night, and God has always spoken to me in dreams. And that night, I remember I was a princess. I was like a queen or something like that. And I had barely just had a baby. And I remember being in a tent and somebody coming in, and then someone being like, hey, like, there's a beast out there. It's coming to kill you. You need to run. And I remember, like, looking at my baby, and they didn't even say anything, but in my head, I knew they were after my baby. Yeah. I was like, I have to protect my baby. They're after him or her. I need to protect him. And so I remember running out of the tent, and I remember when I was running, I turned back, and when I turned back, the beast was like right in front of me, and it was super big. It was super scary. Like, it had its claws out, had its teeth out, and I remember thinking to myself, I looked at my baby, and I looked back up, and I was like, no, I have to protect my baby, you know? Yeah. And I woke up from that dream, and I told my mom about the dream, and she's always been really good at, like, telling me what dreams mean, like, spiritually, you know?
Yeah.
And she told me, she goes, every time you hear a baby mentioned in the Bible, it's always about a new generation. It's about your future, about something good that's going to come out, you know?
Yeah.
Because babies are a blessing. I think babies are a blessing, and they're precious, you know?
Yeah.
And they're gifts from God.
So I suck in that too. You're not the only one who thinks that.
I know. I said that, and I was like, why did I say that? I guess, no, I think I was thinking because of, like, how other people in the world, they're like, babies are just, like like goblins that don't deserve
Goblins.
you know, like
That's
people
crazy.
you know, people call them that, you
Yeah.
know. And so my mom was telling me it means your generation, like the next generation, your future. And she said that like the enemy's after what you have, what God has for you, for your future. The enemy knows that there's something great in you, greater than what you are, and he's trying to take it away. He's trying to kill that, you know.
Yeah.
And since then, after that dream, I was like, yeah, like, I felt more encouraged by that, the dream of that God has something great for me. You know, everything that I had thought about myself was so wrong. It could not be further from the truth.
Yeah.
You know, I think now, so.
I think, you know, one of the things that when we had originally first started talking about this, I think it's so interesting how the enemy works, and especially how he worked in like your situation, because what he was trying to do was send all these like he was trying to create like the perfect atmosphere, the perfect situation to like make you stay down. And it's so true that like dream showed you that in a way, because like the first dream you had about your family, that was like a confirmation to you of like, I'm unloved.
Yeah.
And like in all those other situations, like abandoning yourself from church and even isolating yourself, like that was him setting up a situation to have you where he wanted you, and then to feed you lies, because like we don't listen when we're in community. Like, you know, now you have this community, you have me, you have like your family who are telling you, know you're loved, know you're this, and that the enemy's words fly out the door, and then you have like the word of God being spoken, reminding you of his love. And it's literally God and the enemy fighting for your attention. And the enemy knows he can't win unless he isolates you, unless he makes you doubt your identity in Christ, that you are a princess. Like he makes you doubt that. And so when like you have that confirmation of, God, I'm yours, that makes me royalty, that makes me powerful, that makes me able to like look the enemy in the eye and say, you're a liar, you know. And that's just so, I think it's so hard to get to that place sometimes, and it's such a good reminder of like, say the cliche words, say the thing, they're cliche for a reason, you know. It's like, say, I'm your princess, God, like I'm your daughter. See, this is kind of hard. I'm your princess, God, I'm your daughter, I'm your love, you know.
The Bible even says that like, there's life and death in your tongue, you know. And so I think like, even because when I would be looking at myself in the mirror, like I would verbally say these words like, you are not beautiful, like I would say those things like, you are not loved, like you are gross, you are not loved, or you're not beautiful, you like there's no reason for you to feel pretty, you know. And I think words definitely have an impact. And then after that, me telling saying those words of like, no, I'm God's, I'm God's, like he has died on the cross for me and everything that I've ever could do or ever done. And I think like the words are like so powerful, you know. And so I'll try to like say those things because because you're trying to like
there is power in the tongue. Like the world took that and turned it into this like manifestations, but that's God's. Like it is ours to like say scripture aloud, like I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, like I am yours, you know. Even the lowest is the highest, Lord. I'm your servant. And that's still such a powerful thing to be to God, you know? Excuse me. When I was kind of writing for this, I thought about Matthew 6:26. And this verse helped me through a lot. And in a minute, if you can think of a verse, something that helped you get through it, or something that at the end of it, you were like, man, I'm going to hold on to this now. I want you to share that. But this verse helped me recently, last year, when I went through kind of like a pit. I used to play this song. I forgot what it's called. But it's literally like a song about this verse. It's Matthew 6:26. It says, look at the birds of the air. They neither sow nor reap nor gather into barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not more value? Are you not of more value than they? And I think of that, and it's like the song goes like, I see birds fly across my window, and it's a reminder of how much you care for me. And in our lowest moments, when we think like things have happened to us or people have done things to us that hurt us so, it's so important to remember like God cares about me, not because of what I've done to earn it, because I've not earned it. I'm a sinner. I don't deserve it. You know, I don't deserve his love, but because of who he is and that grace, like we are saved by grace. And that just goes back to like, I want to go on, but it goes back to like the name of this is where grace leads. Because where grace led you was to an altar, to healing, to like vulnerability, and now to a place where you're serving with joy. And you know, because that's the testimony, is that you went from struggling with insecurity and depression to embracing who you are, praising God with intention, and serving him with joy and gladness. And you know, I think that's so amazing. And I wanted to ask you, what would you say to like young women who are going through something that changed their life, something that's in a similar way? What would you say to them?
That's kind of difficult. No, I would say that especially with insecurity, it's really easy to get in your head. It's really easy to just sit there and just think nonstop. Like, I bet you now, if I sit here and I think about all my thoughts that I was going through at that time, I could definitely struggle. Like, I would definitely like sort of relapse in a way and be like, oh my gosh, you know? But I think what honestly helped me, because you said like if I had anything that helped me, was even though I was like backsliding in a way or like struggling to have that relationship with God, I didn't want to read my Bible because I was like, no, I can't. It's a two-edged sword, you know, like the Bible says, two-edged sword. So what if there's something in there that I'm like, oh, it's definitely me, you know? I didn't want to hear that, you know? But what helped me was music. And honestly, particularly this song by Lecrae and Tori Kelly, it's called I'll Find You, and it goes, just fight a little longer, my friend. It's all worth it in the end. When you got nobody to turn to, just hold on and I'll find you. That song like helped me. I would cry my eyes. I would like bawl to it because I was like, okay. Because in like going back and when I was struggling, I would always go back and forth of like, this, like, I'm terrible. And then there would be little moments where I'm like, no, like, but God loves me. But then the enemy's voice was so much stronger in my head and be like, no. And so it would completely like discard any like love that I thought God had for me. Finding something that, I feel like I'm rambling.
No.
I think finding, even though I wasn't reading my Bible and praying, in the music that I was listening to, which was like Christian music that I was trying to listen to, because I figured listening to Christian music, I would always do this like experiment. Because at the time when I was struggling, I wanted nothing with God. Like, I was like, no, I can't have anything to deal with God, you know, because he's too holy for me, you know? And so I would listen to like, not Christian music, I would listen to worldly music, you know? But I finally like realized me listening to Christian music was actually giving me way more peace than anything that I thought I was escaping to, you know? I thought, oh no, this is just my escape. I'm not doing anything wrong, you know? Just to ease the pain, I'm just finding an escape in like worldly music, you know? Which wasn't the case. When I was listening to Christian music, I would find so much more peace and so much more joy. I found it easier to go throughout my day and not feeling like I didn't want to be here on this world, you know? And so I think finding God in little things, I think finding God in little things, getting steps closer to him, you know? Every time I would go out, I would see like the trees and I would feel like the wind and I would hear the birds like singing, and I'd be like, wow, like, God, you're amazing. Like, finding God in little things that way and little things like that, I think really helped me. And I think, what really helped me was being an example, being that older sister, I think also kicked in of wanting to try to feel better in a way. Because I remember this one time, this girl, we were having a sing-spiration. I was in the restroom, I was getting ready, I was going to sing a song, and these group of girls, they were going to sing a song too. And I was in the restroom and I was fixing my hair. I don't know what I was doing, but I was in there doing something. And one of the girls, she came up to me and she was just crying and she was just super like in distraught in a way. And she was like, I was like, what's wrong? And she's like, I just want my mom. I'm like, no, like, what's wrong? And she goes, I feel like everyone's gonna laugh at me. I don't feel like I can do this. Like, I don't believe in myself. I feel like everyone's gonna laugh at me. I saw people smiling and I think they're making fun of me, you know? And in that moment, it's like I was hearing myself telling myself those things. Like, people are gonna laugh at you. People are gonna not like you, or people are gonna hate you, you know? And I thought to myself, like, that's not true though. I looked at her and I was like, no, like, you don't have to believe those things. I was like, you're doing this for God.
Yeah.
You're doing this to please God, not man. And and she hugged me and she thanked me. And after she left out the restroom, I thought to myself, I cannot help other people if I can't even help myself. Yeah. You know, I can't encourage these girls if I don't even believe those words for myself. Yeah. You know, I think in a way, being in leadership also, or being in ministry, kind of helped me of like sort of toughening me.
I think
in a way.
I think it's interesting because it's like it wasn't like that you couldn't help them because you couldn't help yourself, because it's so possible for you to love others even if you're struggling with yourself. But there was almost a dishonesty in yourself about it, where you're like, I have to be an example to myself and to them. Like, I can't be a fraud in this and tell them to do something that I'm not doing. And so it was like you wanted to do it all the way around, and that helped you lead forward. Yeah. And I think that's such a big thing, that when you're struggling like with depression, or you're struggling like with it's like a hyperfixation of yourself. Like, people notice me. They're only seeing me. Oh my, and it's like an overwhelming, like your shirt suddenly doesn't fit right. Something's going on.
My hair's out of place.
Anxiety is building and building and building. And that's so true, that the biggest way out of that is going to be helping others.
Yeah. And they always say that, like, if you want to get better to teach a Bible study, I heard that. Like, they always say it at church all the time, that like, you want to feel better, help somebody else feel better.
Because it takes you're this piece of the puzzle and you're so hyperfixated on it. And then when you look at the whole thing, you're like, I fit in this. Not because I'm perfect, but because I'm in unity and because I can bring something. Yeah. And God's made me a certain way. And I think that's so real, because like, even in your testimony, like, our friendship, like, seeing how we work in ministry is like, a lot of the times I'll do one thing and I strive at this, but then you strive at that, and we support each other. And then you see like someone else where we lack, they thrive. Yeah. And you see someone else like where we're all missing, they thrive. And it's not that God can't like just use one person, but it's that He's using everything that's willing, and it builds something amazing, you know?
I think definitely like having those younger girls, especially because at that time, like, they became my friends when I wasn't. And I think them, in a way, not looking up to me, but being their friend, it definitely helped me want to be out of everything that I was going through. It definitely wanted me to fix this for myself, because I was like, I don't want these girls to think of themselves that way, you know? And so I want to be able to for God to like heal that part of my mind, so that way if these girls end up going through something like that, I know of a way to help them, to get them out of that situation, and be like, no, like, I went through that, God can help you out of that way, you know? It's always been I think also one of the things was my mom, ever since I was little, like growing up, going through like Mean Girls, you know, and she's always told me like, yes, bad things happen, but take a good thing out of that bad thing. You know, so whether that be you don't like they're being rude and you see their personalities, then you take the good thing of, okay, I'm not going to be that way. Okay, I'm not going to act that way, or I'm not going to treat someone like that because I was treated that way. You know, so, and I think also that also helped me like sort of find strength in God again as well. Yeah.
That's so awesome. Well,
Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you being my very first guest.
I'm honored.
And your testimony is so amazing. I know that it's just going to help someone out there who's going through something similar. But thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you to everyone who has listened. We appreciate you sitting us on our first little interview. Thank you so much, and we will see you next time.
Bye.